Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads, and we are picking up where we left off with Hunchback of Notre-Dame. Chapter 10, Esmeralda meets Captain Phoebus again. The sun was shining and the people were out and about enjoying the springtime in Paris. In Dame Aloise's beautiful apartment just across from Notre-Dame, a group of lovely young noble women were laughing. Fleur de Lis, Dame Aloise's daughter, was giggling with her friends. Dame Aloise sat in a plush velvet chair with a tall young man by her side. It was Captain Phoebus who had saved Esmeralda all those months ago. Every now and again, Dame Aloise would speak to Captain Phoebus. Then she would look over at her daughter and say something like, "Look how well she does with her needlework." "Yes, indeed," the captain would reply. "Did you ever see such a pretty young girl as your fiancée?" Dame Aloise asked the captain. "She's as beautiful as a swan, isn't she?" "Yes, indeed," he replied again, even though he wasn't thinking of Fleur de Lis. "Oh, go and speak to her." Dame Aloise pushed him toward Fleur de Lis. "You've been far too quiet today." Phoebus walked over and said, "What is the subject of your tapestry, Fleur de Lis?" "The lovely caves in Italy known as Neptune's Grotto," she answered. "That makes the third time you've asked." "Oh," he said. Phoebus knew he was supposed to bend over and whisper words of love into her ear, but he couldn't think of anything else to say. "Is oh all you have to say to me?" Fleur de Lis raised her pretty blue eyes at him. Phoebus did not know quite what to do next, so he stood up and almost shouted, "What a charming tapestry!" All at once the girls started about tapestries, each trying to get Captain Phoebus to speak to her. One of them looked up and out of the window said, "There's a girl dancing and playing the tambourine in the square." "Some gypsy, I dare say," Fleur de Lis said, turning back to her sewing. "Well, let's see. The other girls scrambled and looked up to the window. Phoebus was relieved when they moved away from him. He knew Dame Aloise would want him to marry her daughter, but he had other girls on his mind. "Captain Phoebus," Fleur de Lis said, "did you not tell us a grand story about how you rescued a gypsy girl? Maybe it's the girl outside." Phoebus walked over to the balcony where all the girls were watching. With the windows open, the girls could hear the bells of Notre-Dame ringing in the distance. "Why, yes, that is her goat." "Look at the young man on the roof of the church," one of the girls said. "It's the Archdeacon Claude Frollo. Look how he stares," another said. "How strange that he should be interested in the gypsy girl." "Captain," Fleur de Lis said, "call down to the gypsy girl and tell her to come up to us. It would be so much fun." "I doubt she would remember me," he said. Fleur de Lis looked at him and pouted. "All righty then," he said. "I'll do it." "Little girl," he called from the balcony. Esmeralda stopped and looked at him. "Over here." Esmeralda blushed. She started walking through the circle of people toward the house. Moments later, she was upstairs in the apartment. The girls were dazzled by her beauty. This made them quite happy. Phoebus broke the silence. "What a charming girl, don't you think so, Fleur de Lis?" "Not bad," she said, and the other girl started to whisper. "Do you remember me?" Phoebus asked Esmeralda. "Oh, yes, I do," she said sweetly. He smiled and said, "You slipped away that night we met and left the hunchback in your place. Did I frighten you?" "Oh, no," Esmeralda answered. Fleur de Lis did not like the conversation between Phoebus and the gypsy girl. In fact, she did not like Phoebus speak to any girl. "What did that monster of a fellow want with you?" he asked. "I don't know," the gypsy girl replied. "Well, he was punished for what he did. You know, he could have spent time in the stocks," the captain told her. "Yes, I know. They were very cruel to him that day. That poor fellow," Esmeralda said. "Goodness me!" Dame Aloise shouted. "What is this beast?" Jolie had gotten herself tangled up in the folds of the old woman's skirt. "It's a goat," Fleur de Lis said. "I've heard of this goat. Make it do a trick." "I don't know what you mean," Esmeralda said. "Come on," one of the girls said. "What's that around your neck?" Esmeralda held the tiny bag in her hands. "Well, that's my secret." Dame Aloise was growing tired of the girl. If you aren't going to dance with us, why did you come upstairs? Leave now. You don't belong here. Esmeralda started to cry as she made her way to the door. She took one last look at Phoebus, who said, "You can't leave like this. Come back and give us a dance. Besides, you haven't even told us your name." "Esmeralda," she said as she untied a rope from the goat's neck and opened the pouch. The letters of the tablet spilled out on the floor. Jolly started to shuffle them together with her pretty little foot. "Look what the goat has done," one of the girls called out. Fleur de Lis turned over and saw Jolly had spelled out Phoebus. "The goat did this?" she asked. "Yes, she did," her friend answered. "How did it know to do that? You must be a witch," Fleur de Lis said angrily to Esmeralda, and then she fainted. The girls rushed towards her. Esmeralda quietly picked up her letters and left the apartment. Phoebus looked at the girls clustered around Fleur de Lis and made up his mind. He left the apartment and followed the gypsy. Claude Frollo had been sitting on top of Notre-Dame's tower watching Esmeralda. Who is that man with her? He wondered as he saw the figure pushed around the crowd back. Why, it's Pierre Gringon. What would he be doing with her? Claude Frollo went outside to find out what was going on, but by then Esmeralda had disappeared. Where did the girl go? Claude Frollo demanded of the man sitting next to him. I don't know. She just left and went up to the building. Someone called her up to the window. Claude Frollo walked over to Esmeralda's small carpet where she usually stood and danced. What are you doing here? He asked Pierre. The stern voice of Claude Frollo scared the poet. He stammered a hello. Are you no longer a poet, but a street performer? Claude Frollo asked. Pierre explained that his play at the Great Hall had been a disaster, and there's now the tramps of the Court of Miracles. How do you know this gypsy girl? Claude Frollo asked. She is my wife and I am her husband, Pierre answered. Claude Frollo became very angry. What do you mean? You're not married to Esmeralda. Pierre started to shake. Oh, it's not what you think. He told the Archdeacon how Esmeralda had saved him from a certain death. Claude Frollo asked Pierre all about Esmeralda, and the poet told him everything we knew. Oh, and it took her too much to teach Jolly how to spell Phoebus, Pierre added. Why Phoebus? Claude Frollo asked. She thinks it's a magical word, Pierre answered. Is it a word or a name? Claude Frollo asked. Why do you care, sir? The poet asked. Claude Frollo grew angry and shouted for Pierre to leave. The fact of the matter was that he was in love with Esmeralda. He had seen her playing her tambourine and dancing and knew that she had to be his, no matter what. Okay, that ends that chapter, and I will see you next time on Kim Reads.